Okay, welcome everybody. We're in Sanhedrin, bottom of Yud Daled Amud Aleph. We'll dedicate the shiur to the memory of Avril's father, whose name
Nachman ben Oza.
Nachman ben Oza, whose yortzeit is on Shabbat, wishing Chaim Arukim. The neshama should have an aliyah. And I want to also dedicate the shiur to a refuah shleima for Charlie. Yechezkel something Ben Yenta. Can't remember off the top of my head now without looking it up, but something like that. Charlie Simonov, our good friend, who is hopefully recovering well from further surgery. We wish him a refuah shleima as well. Okay, and I also want to dedicate the shiur, as I did actually on the day of the 11th of September, to those heroes that gave their lives to save others on the 11th of September 2001. We all remember where we were at that time, changed the world forever. There were some real heroes there, unsung heroes, and I just want to take a moment to recognize them. So let's go and learn some Gemarah. Let's go straight to the text, if I can find it, which I can't right now. Just hang on, I got it all ready. There it is. Let's try again. Don't know what that was you saw. I think it was my emails. There you go. That's more like it. Okay, so we're on page 73 in the Steinsaltz, bottom of Yud Daled Amud Aleph in the Vilna Shas. And what we spoke about last week, for those of you that don't recall or weren't here, we went right back to the Mishnah, and we had a machloket between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda as to how many judges are required for the procedure of Eglah Arufah, this decapitated calf. And we went through the details of, last week we went through the details of what this is all about. This is when a corpse is found in between two cities. And we don't know who has been the cause of the death. We had a discussion about whether it was any death or whether it was only clearly a murder victim. And I think the answer is it's any death found between the cities. You have to measure between the cities and see which city is closest to the corpse. That city then is sort of held responsible for the death of this person, potentially because they didn't give him appropriate hospitality, didn't give him appropriate send-off when he went. We then went into a discussion about the word levaya and its origins. It's quite an interesting discussion. Those of you that didn't listen to it, you can listen to it in the recording. The upshot was that there is an obligation on the elders of the town to do this ceremony, the elders of the town that's closest to the corpse. I'm just going to turn my phone onto silent. Hang on, there you go. The closest to the corpse has to do this ceremony where they get this eglah, this calf, and it has to have its neck broken, hopefully in as humane a way as possible. And it's a funny old ceremony, but there's a requirement, says the Mishnah, for 3 or 5 judges, depending on which opinion, to do this procedure. And we were talking about the measurement. That was what the judges were there for, because it was rather a shameful episode for a town to have to do this ceremony of Eglah Arufah, because it sort of showed that they hadn't given appropriate hospitality to the victim. So nobody really wanted to have that on their CV. So if this corpse was found somewhere in the middle, there would have to be this measuring business to see which was closest. And you needed 3 or 5 judges, depending on which opinion you go by. Rabbi Shimon said 3, Rabbi Yehuda said 5. Now, what we said last week was, somebody asked, I think it was Michael Krauss, said, what if it's obvious that it was closest to one city and not the other? Do we still need to do this measuring business? And I said, I'm not sure. And actually, when I was preparing the shiur for today, we will become sure because the Gemara asked that question a bit later on. So we may get to that today, or we may not. But there is an answer to that question, which I'll not spoil it for you by telling you what the answer is. So what we're going to do now, the Gemara is going to actually try and establish how Rabbi Shimon comes up with his opinion that there needs to be 3, and how Rabbi Yehuda comes up with his opinion that there needs to be 5. Why don't they agree? What is the reasoning of each one? And how will each of them counter-argue the other's position? So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to indulge in a piece of classic Gemara back and forth argument between 2 Tanaim, 2 rabbis from the time of the Mishnah. And the Gemara is trying to work out how each of them came to their decision as to the number of judges. So we're over here at the top of the page. Arifat egla bishlosha. This ceremony, it needs 3 judges. And if we go back to the Mishnah, it'll say that's the words of Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Yehuda says 5. Okay, so first of all, we're going to establish how we get to the number 5. First of all, we're going to look at Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that they need 5 judges. So it goes like this. We need to get the pasuk. So I'm going to show you the pasuk now, and then Leon is going to read it out. It is in Sefer Dvarim, Parshat Shoftim, and it is chapter 21. Let me share the screen. Okay, Leon, off you go. Chapter 21, verse 1.
If a corpse will be found on the land that Hashem your God gives you to possess it, fallen in the field, it was not known who smote him. Your elders and judges shall go out and measure towards the cities that are around the corpse.
Okay, stop there. Now this is the all-important pasuk, this one here. Okay, verse 2, right at the top of the page now. Okay, there I've highlighted it. V'yatzeu zekeinecha v'shoftecha umadadu el ha'arim asher svivot hechalal. And I'd like you to read your translation again, and I want you to listen very carefully to the translation and tell me where the mistake is in Leon's translation that he's going to read out.
If a corpse will be found on the land that Hashem your God gives you to possess it, fallen in the field, it was not known who smote him. Your elders and judges shall go out and measure towards the cities that are around the corpse.
Stop there. Now, where's the mistake that Leon read out?
I think it says because a slain person, a murdered person, in the one that you've got on the screen, a slain person. So it's not just a corpse; it's somebody who's been murdered.
Halal means a corpse. Yeah, it means a corpse. It means a corpse.
Not a slain corpse.
Yeah.
Not a slain one.
Well, a slain one can be a corpse. I mean, a slain one will be a corpse.
No, I mean an ordinary person who died isn't a slain person. It just died.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry.
And what Leon's translation is mi hikahu. From hikahu at the top there is that slain. That's a smote, from Makkah. Eser makot, 10 smitings. Okay, so where's the mistake? I'll give you a clue. It's in verse 2. Just read the translation of verse 2 again, Leon.
Your elders and judges shall go out and measure towards the cities that are around the corpse.
Okay. So there is two mistakes in that, and there's only one mistake in the translation on the screen. And they're important mistakes, as our Gemarah will see shortly. Let's see how carefully you can look at the Hebrew. You all know the answer to this question, you just haven't spotted it. It's like one of those puzzles you get, spot the difference when you've got, somebody's got only 2 dots on their tie instead of 1, and you don't notice it.
They should measure to the cities. It should be from the cities.
El He'arim, to the cities.
Okay.
El means to. All right, I'll tell you. How would you translate this word? V'yatza'u.
And they should go out.
Go on, Johnny, say it again.
And they should go out,
And they will go out, yes. And what did you say, Leon?
I said, and they went out because of the
No, you didn't. You didn't. Read it again.
Your elders and judges shall go out.
Okay, so where's the mistake?
Well,
Johnny said it correct. Johnny said it correctly.
Yeah.
Say it again, Johnny.
And they went out.
Okay, and what did Leon say?
And they shall go out.
No, see, none of you are paying attention. Leon did not say the word and. Leon's translation does not have the word and. He just said, your elders shall go out. Correct, Leon?
Yes.
Okay. Now, why am I being so pedantic when Michael Leaf isn't even here? And the answer is that the Gemarah is going to use that little vav in a little while, and it's going to ask us a question about it. So we need to take notice of it. So the correct translation of this pasuk is, and your elders and your judges shall go out, and they shall measure to the cities around which is the corpse. Okay, there's 3 vavs there. V'yatza'u, v'shoftecha, u'madadu. Right? Now, we'll be coming back to that later in the Gemarah. So I wanted just to draw your attention to that, because even with lots of prompting from me, none of you got that. So it shows you how carefully the rabbis of the Talmud were looking at these pesukim, much more carefully than we were. Don't think for one moment that I would have got it either. I wouldn't. I just happened to have read the Gemarah, so I knew that it was important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got it either. So I'm not trying to be clever here and say that that I would have got it and you didn't. None of us got it because we haven't looked carefully enough. So, given that we need to look at these pesukim really carefully, let's have a look how the Gemarah interprets these verses. But perhaps before we do, before you look back into your Gemarah, let me ask you who you think these people are that go out to do the measuring. They're described here as Zekenecha v'shoftecha. Zekenecha means your elders. We've had that already, haven't we? We spoke about that with the business of a zakan, a beard, and we spoke about Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, whose beard turned grey, etc. Remember? And shoftecha, well, you know what a shofet is. A shofet is a judge, or in football terms, it's a referee. So who are these people that go out? What is the Torah trying to tell us by using these expressions? Who goes out to do the measuring? Anybody want to tell me who they think would go out and do the measuring?
They seem to be the most important people in the town, or amongst the most important people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Zekenecha are the elders of the town. I agree with that. Yes, Jeffrey?
Well, if you're talking about modern terms, you'd say a surveyor. Now, you can define a surveyor in many ways, and there's many different.
Well, hang on a sec. Hang on a sec, Jeff. It's another good point, because that's a question that the Gemarah will ask a bit later. We won't get to it today, I don't think. But the question is, the elders and the judges go out and do the measuring, but surely they need an expert with them, a surveyor, to actually help them do the measuring. And that's a question that's asked later on. But that's not said in the pasuk. The pasuk says the elders and the judges. Yes, Leon?
Well, seeing we're studying Sanhedrin, I would imagine there's at least one of those two words includes members of the great Sanhedrin.
Yes, but then again, you've read on.
True.
Leon is absolutely right. And we're going to see that now. Let's have a look. So the answer to our question, without knowing the Gemarah, is I'm not really sure who's going out. Yes, it's going to be the important people, Zekenecha, and the judges. But we know there are all sorts of different types of judges, aren't there? There's the kind of judges that make up a beis din of 3, like we have Erev Rosh Hashanah to do our annulment of vows, who are just what we call hedyotim, ordinary folk. And then there's the Sanhedrin, the small Sanhedrin, which consisted of how many judges? Who can remember that?
23.
23, that's right, 23 judges. And then there's the great Sanhedrin, the judges of the great Sanhedrin of 71. So when it says shoftecha, your judges, how do we know which kind of judges they're talking about? And that's what the Gemarah is going to go into now in some detail. So I wanted to show you the pasuk, because at first glance, that pasuk that's on the screen there just looks very straightforward. The elders and the judges will go out and measure the cities. Well, number one, who are the elders? What type of judges? How many of them? What, if they don't know how to measure, can they employ an expert, a surveyor, to do the job on their behalf, their representatives? All of these things, the Gemarah is now going to ask. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never read that pasuk until now and thought, oh, that's a difficult pasuk. I wonder who the Zekenim are. I wonder who the Shoftim are. I wonder how they do the measurement. Of course not. We just read it, didn't we? And we just don't really go into it in great detail. And that's the beauty of the Gemarah, because the Gemarah allows us, if we spend enough time doing it, which we do, allows us the luxury of looking at each individual pasuk in its context, delving into it in great detail, and understanding exactly what happened, rather than just a superficial reading, which is what we get when we sort of listen to the laning on a Shabbat morning, or even if we do our Shnayim Mikra V'Echad Targum, we read it ourselves 3 times through. Most of us would not actually delve into the pasuk the way the Gemarah does. So let's go back into the Gemarah now and see what we can learn out of all of that. Let's get the Gemarah back up for you now. So, V'yatzeu zekenecha v'shoftecha, says the pasuk. Zekenecha, that is in the plural, correct? Your elders, right? It doesn't say the singular tense, your elder, it's your elders, plural. So we have a general rule, don't we, in halakha, in the Torah, that whenever a plural expression is used without specifying the number, that means 2, because that is the minimum that you can have in the plural. Anything less than 2 is not plural. Anything more than 2 would need to be specified. So it's a general rule, we've had it before in our Gemarah, that anything which is plural without a number means 2. So, says the Gemarah, remember this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion right now. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says we need 5 judges. Zekeinecha shnayim. Your judges, that's 2. Shoftecha is also plural. Your judges, that's another 2. So again, the pasuk says, "V'yatzu zekeinecha v'shoftecha." Your elders and your judges shall go out. So 2 elders, that's 2. Judges, that's another 2. That's 4. So how do we get to 5? Where's the other one come from?
Mumcha.
No.
The moded musnach.
No. Why do we have the extra one, Michael?
Got to be an odd number.
Yeah, it's got to be an odd number. The Gemarah says, "Ve'ein beit din shakul." We can't have an even number of judges on a bet din. Mosifin aleihem od echad. So we add mosifin. We add to them 1 more. Harikan chamisha. That gives us 5. 2 for zekeinecha, 2 for shoftecha, that's 4. We can't have an even number, so we have to have 5. Let me ask you a question. Why do we need to have an odd number here? This is not a bet din in effect. This is not a court where we have litigants one side and another. This is a simple fact of measuring a distance from A to the corpse and from corpse to B. Why do we need a 5th judge to make it into an odd number?
How else can you get to a decision if you don't have a majority one way or the other, despite the fact that it's not a court case?
That's absolutely right, Michael. There could still be disputes, and there are various machlokot, various arguments about where you measure from. Right? Do you measure from the head? Do you measure from his heart? Do you measure from his feet? Where do you measure from? He's lying on the ground, and let's say he's lying on the longitudinal axis between town A and town B. And let's say his head is nearer town A and his feet are nearer town B. So you've got a problem, haven't you? How do you decide? So therefore, even though this is not a formalized bet din, there are still things to decide. And when you have things to decide, you quite rightly say, Michael, you can't have an even number, you've got to have an odd number. So despite the fact that it's not a bet din, we still need to add on 5, the extra judge to make it 5, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. All right. So we understand that. Now, what's Rabbi Shimon going to do? Because he's the one that says 3. How is he going to counter-argue Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemarah. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon says, I agree with Rabbi Yehuda. Zekeinecha shnayim. Because it says zekeinecha, that means we need 2 judges. Because it's plural. And the plural without a number means 2. Ve'ein beit din shakul. we cannot have an even number of judges for the reasons we've just said. Mosifin alehem od echad. We add to them one more. Harei kan shlosha. Says Rabbi Shimon, we've got 3. Now, you're Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon says that. What's your retort to Rabbi Shimon if you're Rabbi Yehuda?
What about the judges?
What about the word shoftecha? You've ignored that. You can't say, I'll agree with the plural expression of zekenecha, meaning 2, but I'm going to ignore the next one that's a plural, shoftecha, and say that means none at all. Can't have that, says Rabbi Yehuda. And that's the question. The Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon, hai shoftecha, mai avid lei. This expression, shoftecha, mai avid lei. What is he going to do? Or how is he going to work this? So in other words, what is he going to do with this expression, shoftecha? He has to learn something from that word, shoftecha. If Rabbi Yehuda is learning 2 judges out of it, and Rabbi Shimon isn't, so what's he going to do with that word? Can't ignore it. Says the Gemara, this is what Rabbi Shimon would say to you. Hahu, that expression, or that person, he requires it, limyuchadin shebeshoftecha. What does the word meyuchad mean? Anyone know what meyuchad means?
United.
The singular.
It is singular, that is right. It comes from the word echad. What did you say, Marcel?
United.
That's me'uchad, without the yud. That's me'uchad, same root, but meyuchad comes from the word yachid, which means an individual. So if I say that our kihila is meyuchedet, that's a feminine version of it, what am I saying?
It's united.
No, that would be me'uchedet, without the yud.
Special.
Special, that's right, Avril, special. You might see on your cornflake packet, Johnny, that you've just been eating, you might see, if you look carefully, Miftzah miyuchad. Special offer.
Yeah.
Okay, miyuchad means special. Okay, so he needs it to tell you, lemiyuchadin shebeshoftecha, that we're talking here about the most special ones amongst the judges. In other words, Leon?
The Sanhedrin. Sorry,
the great Sanhedrin. So Rabbi Shimon says the word shoftecha is not there to teach you that we need an extra 2 judges. It's there to tell you that the kind of judges that we need are not your everyday common garden judges from the shuk, from the marketplace, as they're called, but rather they are the meyuchadim. They are the special ones, the Jose Mourinho's of the judges, right? They're special ones. I've just thought of that now. That could have been a good clue, couldn't it? And when I was asking you what meyuchad meant, I could have said Jose Mourinho. I wonder how many of you would have got that. Anyway, shame, I missed the trick there. Right, anyway, so this is to teach us that these judges are the special ones. So they are the ones from the Sanhedrin. That's what Rabbi Shimon says. So Rabbi Shimon understands the pasuk like this. Zekenecha, that's 2. Shoftecha, that's to tell us what type of 2 we're having. And I can't allow an even number of judges, so I'll add one more, and I've got 3. So I've got 3 judges from the Sanhedrin, according to Rabbi Shimon. Okay. Okay, fair enough. So now the ball is back in Rabbi Yehuda's court. The Rebbe Yehuda, where does he learn out that it has to be from the Sanhedrin? The question should come first of all. Before that, it's an understood question and an understood answer. Does Rebbe Yehuda agree that it needs to be judges from the Sanhedrin? And clearly from the Gemarah, that unspoken question, the answer to that is yes, because Rebbe Yehuda now goes along and explains to us where he learns the fact that these have to be special judges, because he's not using the word shoftecha to learn that. And there is a very important rule, which I'm sure you're aware of, that you can only learn one diuk, one derivation from one word. You can't derive multiple things from one word. So if Rabbi Yehuda is using the word shoftecha to mean 2 extra judges to take him to the number of judges being 5, then that word shoftecha is not available to him for him to learn that they are the meyuchadim, the special ones. Okay, so he has to find another. If he believes that they should be the special ones, which he does from the Sanhedrin, he now has to find another place to derive that halakha. Are you all with me so far? Right, so where does he get it from? Mi ziknei zekenecha nafka. Nafka means he learns it out. So he learns it out from the fact that the pasuk says zekenecha, your elders. And it doesn't just say zekenim or ziknei, which is a shortened version. It uses a longer version of the word. He could have just said ziknei ha'ir or hazakenim. Let's go back to the pasuk a minute and just look at it and see what he could have said.
What's the difference in the grammar of those words, Johnny?
Let's have a look, Johnny. Good question. Okay, so it says V'yatzeu zekenecha, and your elders, v'shoftecha, and your judges. What if I'd have said V'yatzeu zekenim v'shoftim, and the elders and the judges shall go out? Would you have stopped me and said, hey, wait a minute, why doesn't it say your judges? No, you wouldn't, because it still makes sense. So what Rabbi Shimon is saying is the fact that it uses this longer expression using the what's the word? The where it belongs to you. What's the grammatical expression?
Possessive.
Possessive. Thank you. Possessive. That's right. Because it uses the possessive form, that is a longer form, and it's a hint to you that we should learn something from it. Rabbi Shimon says that the fact that it says zekenecha instead of zekenim or ziknei, then that is enough to learn out from that we need the special judges. It's starting to get a bit of a dray, this now, starting to get a bit schwach, these arguments back and forth, because each of these 2 gentlemen, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, don't want to give up on their position, so they've got their backs to the wall each time, and they're using what I call semantic acrobatics in order to prove their position. So let's go again. Let's go back to the Gemarah.
Can we not learn from that you should take your judges and your elders, and the other town should take their judges and their elders?
Well, that if you were Reb Johnny, then Rebbe Yonatan, Rebbe Yosef Yonatan, then you would you'll be able to have that opinion, and that would be a perfectly good way of explaining that. I was going to ask that question actually. I was going to ask the question: if you've got 3 judges and 2 different towns, I would have done it if it was me. If I was Rebbe Yaakov Tzvi in the Gemarah, I would be saying we'd have one from town A, one from town B, and an independent chappie from town C. so that we would have no arguments. So, and I would have used zekenecha and shoftecha for that very reason. But I don't know that that is the case or not. I haven't yet got that far in the Gemarah. So we'll just shelve that for the minute, Johnny. But it's a very fair point. And
you could have three judges and 5 elders, or 5 elders and 3 judges.
Yeah, well, you can only have 2 elders plus you one, so it's not even, because it's only plural. It's not, doesn't give you a number. So what we're seeing now is that now we are beginning to look at this pasuk with our Gemarah cop. Okay, we're now coming up with other potential explanations. Now we are now in the Gemarah. Rabbi Shimon has said, Rabbi Yehuda is now saying that he learns out from this word zekenecha that we need 2 judges, and the fact that it says zekenecha in a longer form means that they have to be judges from the great Sanhedrin. All right, back to you, Rabbi Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon say about that? Why doesn't Rabbi Shimon learn that they have to be special judges from zekenecha? Why does he have to go along and say he learns the fact that they are Sanhedrin judges, or great Sanhedrin judges, from the word shoftecha? He could have learnt it from zekenecha, right? Which would have left shoftecha available for Rabbi Yehuda to use his 2. So Rabbi Shimon, you're in trouble now. Why did you not use zekenecha to learn out that they needed to be special judges? Okay, so Rabbi Shimon, okay, without looking in, who can get into Rabbi Shimon's mind and see how you can get out of this? I gave you a bit of a clue earlier on, but you'll be a better man than me if you can get this without looking in the Gemarah. So I'll tell you. Let's look at the Gemarah. So Rabbi Shimon, question mark, how does Rabbi Shimon deal with that question? So Rabbi Shimon says, whoa, wait a minute. If it had just said zekenim, I would have thought hava amina, I would have thought ziknei hashuk, that they would have been just your everyday common or garden judges. You can get them off the street, off the market, 3 a penny.
Elders.
Katav Rachmana. So the Rachmana writes. Who is the Rachmana? What does this Rachmana mean?
Isn't that Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rachmana?
Yes. Why is the Kadosh Baruch Hu called Rachmana, Marcel? Why doesn't it say?
Because he's the all-merciful.
Because he is the all-merciful, correct, from Rachamim, correct. So the all-merciful one writes, or wrote, in other words, Shem wrote, Zekenecha. So that tells us that they're not common or garden judges. So isn't that just what Rabbi Shimon said? Rabbi Shimon said the same thing, and therefore they're from the great Sanhedrin. Sorry, that was Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rabbi Shimon, no. The fact is that it wrote Zekenecha, so I know that they're not ordinary judges. Hava Amina, but I might have thought Sanhedrin Ketana, that they are the judges from the small Sanhedrin of 23 judges that every city has to have. So therefore, says Rabbi Shimon, Katav Rachmana v'shoftecha. I still need shoftecha to tell me that these are the judges from the great Sanhedrin. Okay? V'shoftecha mimyuchadin shebeshoftecha. That shoftecha teaches us that they are from the great. So it goes like this for Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, remember Rabbi Shimon's the one that says we need 3. Zikanin being plural, that's 2. We can't have an even number, so we add 1, so that's 3. The fact that it says Zikanecha means that they're not ordinary shmati judges. They're little shuk, the market judges. But it still might be that I think it's the 23 court judges. And therefore I need Shoftecha to teach me it's the 71. Rabbi Yehuda at this point says Zikanim is 2. Shoftecha is another 2, that's 4. Plus 1 is 5. And I need the Zikanecha to teach me that it's the great Sanhedrin. He misses out the step of the 23 Sanhedrin. He doesn't seem to need that for some reason. And so we're going to ask that question now of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda, why do you not need something to teach you it's not the 23 Sanhedrin? You've used up all your derivations in other things. How do you derive that we're dealing with the 71 Bet Din judges and not the 23? So the Gemara makes a suggestion. The Rabbi Yehuda, what about him? How does he get round this 23 business? So Rabbi Yehuda suggests Gamar. What does that mean?
Finish.
It does mean he finished, but it doesn't mean finish in this context. What's the Gemarah?
Complete.
It means to complete, but it doesn't mean it in this context.
Gemarah.
What are we doing with this Gemarah?
Learning.
Correct. Gamar means to learn.
To learn.
Okay, so he learns it. Gamar, Rabbi Yehuda learns it. Learns what? Learns that it needs to be the 71 Bet Din and not the 23. In other words, he doesn't need that step that Rabbi Shimon uses. How does he learn it? From a Gezeirah Shava. Can you remember what a Gezeirah Shava is? What's a Gezeirah Shava?
Gezeirah is a decree, isn't it? A decree.
What does Shaveh mean?
Broken. No. Broken?
That's Gavor.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi Yishmael Omer Bishlosh Esrei Midot HaTorah Nidreshet Bahen. You said that this morning. Mikal Vechomer Migzeira Shava. It's one of the 13 exegetical principles. It's called a Gezeirah Shava, and it is a comparison. Shava means equal. Okay? So, Gezeirah Shava, if you have two expressions that are the same, you can learn one place from another. You can learn from one place to another. It's called a Gezeirah Shava. It's a very, very important Gemarah principle. We've had it before. And so, in other words, if you have two pesukim and they both use the same expression, then you can derive something from the second pasuk from the first pasuk. So let's have a look. He uses this expression ziknei, okay, from another verse that uses the word ziknei. And it's a verse that we are familiar with because we've just finished learning all about it. The previous subject to this one of the Egla Arufah, what were we learning about for the previous few weeks? What was our topic before we got onto this topic? I showed you my certificate.
Samicha.
Samicha, that's right. And where did we learn all that business we went on about smicha from? We learned it from Sefer Vayikra in the Parsha of Vayikra, chapter chapter 2, I think it is, or is it chapter 1? No, chapter 4. Chapter 4 of Leviticus. I will put it on the screen for you now. And Leon will please read it out. Verse 15.
The elders of the assembly shall lean their hands upon the head of the bull before Hashem, and someone shall slaughter the bull before Hashem.
Remember, we had the discussion before smicha of Rabbanim. We spoke about the smicha of the bull. Remember the story? The community that had made sins, done sins, because of a mistake of a psak halacha of the Bet Din. It's called a davar shene'elam. It was a matter that was hidden from them. Then the elders had to do this special offering, this special korban, which involved this. The elders of the community shall lean their hands upon the bull's head. Remember, we discussed it a month or so ago. So we learned there in the Gemarah that what kind of people were these people that had to lean their hands on the bull? They were members of the great Sanhedrin. So Rabbi Yehuda suggests in our Gemarah here, just like the Zekanim of this pasuk were the great Sanhedrin, then similarly, our pasuk, there it is for you, Vayatza'u Zekanecha, same word Zekanim, same root, just like those ones over there, V'samchu Ziknei Ha'edah, are the great Sanhedrin. So these ones are also the great Sanhedrin, right? So he doesn't need any psukim, any verses to teach him that it doesn't need to be the 23 Sanhedrin people, because he goes straight to a Gemarah Shava and he learns out of Zekanim, he learns that it's the great Sanhedrin, right? So let's go back to the Gemarah then. There's the Gemarah. So Rabbi Yehuda Gamar, he learns it ziknei, ziknei, two similar words, Gemarah Shava. Me, from the pasuk, v'samchu ziknei ha'edah et yidehem. The elders of the congregation shall lean their hands on the bull, says the Gemarah. Ma lahalan meyuchadin sheba'edah, just as lahalan over there, meaning in this leaning case, we know that they had to be meyuchadin, the special ones, sheba'edah, in the congregation, i.e. the great Sanhedrin. Afkan, so too here, meyuchadin shebizkenecha, they have to be the special ones of your elders, meaning the great Beit Din. Now, the obvious question is, why doesn't Rabbi Shimon have the same Gemarah Shava? But we're not going to ask that just now. What we're going to ask is a different question. And what you need to know is that when you do a Gemarah Shava from one pasuk to the other, you can't pick and choose. You cannot pick and choose which bits of the pasuk you want to compare. It's an all or nothing, right? So if you're comparing one pasuk to another, then you have to take it with all its glory. So the Gemarah says, I yalef, if he learns, another word for learning, if he learns this analogy, this Gemarah Shava, meaning Zekenecha means the special judges, Leilaf Kula Mehatam. he needs to learn the whole thing from there. So therefore he could, let's read the Steins out because he puts it nicely. The Gemara asks, if he learns this verbal analogy, he should learn all of it, i.e. the entire halacha, including the number of judges, as well as their rank from there, i.e. the verse in Leviticus. And if so, why do I need the extra expressions, your elders and your judges? So therefore, why do I need this, the vavs? Remember, I told you to look carefully, and Leon didn't translate the vavs. So he says there, and therefore, why do I need the extra expressions, your elders and your judges? Which shows that therefore he cannot possibly learn this Gezeirah Shavah, because if he learned the Gezeirah Shavah, he would not come and say to us, I need to learn the 5 judges from Zekeinecha and Shoftecha. He would say, I learn the whole lot from a Gezeirah Shavah. Okay, you can't pick and choose. You can't say, I'm only going to learn that there's a special judges. So if that's the case, and he doesn't learn the specialness, he doesn't learn the 5 from there, then he can't learn the specialness either. You can't pick and choose, says the Gemara. Okay, rather, certainly, he does not accept this Gezeirah Shavah. Rather, he holds, now we've got a different idea, that the extra vav, remember we said v zekeinecha, v shoftecha, okay? He holds that the extra vav teaches that they must be members of the great Sanhedrin, and the additional vav is to teach us that we add an additional 2. So v'shoftecha is the extra 2. V'zekeinecha, okay, or uzekeinecha, right, is the way that Rabbi Yehuda learns that they are special. They are special. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda says there are 5. 2 for Zekeinecha, 2 for Shoftecha, 1 because we can't have a even number. And how do I know that they're from the Great Beis Din? Because of the beginning Vav of V'Zekeinecha that we all failed to spot was not translated in the Art Scroll or in the Chabad translation. So Rabbi Yehuda has those. Rabbi Shimon, what is he going to do with that extra Vav? Because he's also got to do something with it. Well, he doesn't. Rabbi Shimon, question mark, what's he going to do with the extra Vav? Vav lo daresh. He doesn't hold of extra Vavs. Rabbi Shimon says, no, we don't have to learn anything from this Vav. Stop looking for stuff that isn't there, he says. It's just Vav. It just means and. Be done with. Stop driving me mad. So Rabbi Shimon says it's 3 judges. Why? Zekeinecha's plural. And it's not just Zekeinim. That teaches it's not from the 20. It's not the ordinary, but it could be 23 judges. Shoftecha teaches us it's from the Great Sanhedrin. I'm not allowed just 2, so I'll add on 1. I say 3, says Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda, bottom line of Rabbi Yehuda, is that he holds 2 for Zekeinim, 2 for Shoftim, and the fact that it's special comes from the extra Vav at the beginning of the Pasuk, which Rabbi Shimon doesn't have anything to do with, and that can't have an even number of 4, so we'll add on and we make 5. So each rabbi, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, have got their logic as to how they get to 3 and how they get to 5. What is the halacha? Anybody know? How do we paskin? David, do you know how we paskin?
No.
Neither do I, but I've got a feeling that it's Rabbi Yehuda. Got a feeling it's Rabbi Yehuda, but I could be wrong. You checking it out for us, David?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I'll just sum up because I've got to go in a sec. I'll just sum up now what we've learned today. We've learned about the fact that we have to look very carefully at the pesukim and not just skim over them. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda have looked very carefully. They've had a ping-pong match back and forth. And the bottom line is Rabbi Shimon holds 3. And from the Great Bet Din, Rabbi Yehuda holds 5. And from the Great Bet Din. And they use their own methodology to arrive at that. Bottom line is Rabbi Shimon doesn't have to darshan every vav in the Torah. Rabbi Yehuda's given himself a bit of a challenge, because if you're going to darshan this vav, then you're going to have to darshan every vav. And that's what the next bit of Gemarah next week is going to talk about, the extra vavs that we've seen knocking around. And in fact, of course, we do darshan some vavs at least, don't we? The most famous one is at the beginning of Parshat Mishpatim. How does the Parsha of Mishpatim begin? Marcel, you ought to know. It's your bar mitzvah, Cedra.
Ve'elu.
Ve'ela hamishpatim. That's right. Ve'ela. And these are. I'm sure that all of you who went to good schools will have been told by your English teachers you are not allowed to start a sentence with and. Okay? You're certainly not allowed to start a paragraph with and you're certainly not allowed to start a parsha with and. But obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never went to Manchester Grammar School, and he starts Parashas Mishpatim with Ve'ela Mishpatim. And the famous Rashi says there, what's the extra vav? That's to teach us not only were the 10 Commandments that we've just heard given at Mount Sinai, also Ve'ela, and all of these were also given at Har Sinai. So that's the vav of Ve'ela. But we'll see a few more vavs next week. Okay, David, Sack?
Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda, in this case, we follow. Interestingly, in the Gezeirah Shova case, with the Smicha, the halacha follows Rabbi Shimon.
Right, that's interesting. But I thought Rabbi Yehuda was with these judges. Very good. Excellent. Okay, sorry, no time for questions. Have to go. And I will see you. What day is it today? Wednesday. Okay, tomorrow night, Rav Ido and Rav Cordozo, please, as many as possible, come to shul. I'm going to try and Zoom it, but the Zoom isn't great from shul. So if you can come, I think it will be very nice to see them both in the flesh, as it were. That's Thursday night. Friday and Shabbat, we've got a special Shabbaton with a band coming. Lots of Karlibach singing on Friday night. Kiddush on Shabbat. Special Sudash Lishit with singing and dancing, Malava Malka, and a concert after Shabbat. As many people, please come and support that. And on Sunday night, I am doing a shiur on Teshuvah. Is it easy or hard? That will also be a hybrid at the shul and on Zoom. Okay, all of that will be sent out probably 150 times on 30 different WhatsApp groups. So don't tell me that you didn't know about it. Right. See you all soon. Shabbat Shalom when it comes around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.